They say no one wants to be alone, but what if being alone was the key to unlocking your greatest potential? A lot of us fear being alone because of the shame that comes with the idea of being alone, or with the pain that comes with the idea of being alone. But what if we got it completely wrong? What if it is what is necessary to become who we truly are? So in this video, I just wanted to look at being alone from a different angle and show a few reasons why maybe being alone could be the best decision that you've ever made. If you're watching this video and you find yourself to be in a lonesome state, this may be the video that helps you understand that in a different way, to help to guide you to wherever you're going, whether it be more time being alone or understanding yourself enough to be in groups, in a relationship, or a part of a family. Let's get into some questions that'll help you looking at your current state of being alone in a different way. The first question to ask yourself is, what if being alone is not loneliness? What if it's actually freedom? A lot of us don't realize how much impact the people around us have on us. Sometimes we find ourselves in compromising situations, in positions that we don't necessarily like, but we don't necessarily not like, so we just are along for the ride. Sometimes we have a very influential family or family members that have us thinking of ourselves in a specific way, but that way is not necessarily who we really see ourselves as. But without spending time alone, we'll never really realize that. So what if being alone is that opportunity to look at yourself in a different way? What if being alone is the first time that you're going to be able to have your own thoughts, to actually develop and understand the difference between what you like versus what you don't like? What if being alone is going to give you that edge? Because a lot of people are living life and they don't really understand who they are or what they are. What if that period of time that you're going through is actually what's building you to understand this, so you could say yes more firmly when it's time to say yes, so you could say no more firmly when it's time to say no. So what if loneliness is not a prison, but it's actually a period of freedom? The second important question to ask if you find yourself alone is, who are you when no one is watching? A lot of times we don't really see ourselves for who we are. We see ourselves as a reflection of the people that we're around. So we're in a group and we see ourselves as the funny person. We're in a classroom and we see ourselves as the studious person. But you're the studious person in comparison to the classroom. You're the funny person in comparison to the friend group that you have. So what if we took all those people and we put them away and we put you by yourself? Who are you? And what do you actually think? Now, this is something that we can't really get to the bottom of unless we spend time with ourselves. Because the more that we're around people is the more that our ideas bounce off of others. It's the more that our influence meshes with other opinions and other ways of being. Only when you're able to spend time alone can you really look at yourself for who you actually are, where you can actually ask yourself, who am I? What am I doing? What is the difference between me and another person? What is the difference between me now and me before? What if your time alone is so that you can really understand who you are, unaltered and unaffected by everyone else? The third question that is important to ask yourself when you find yourself alone is, why do you view being alone as a weakness rather than a strength? Really think about this. Spend this time and reflect over the idea of being alone. This is where you can maximize your training, maximize your studying, maximize your understanding of self. This is like training. I don't know if any of you have watched Dragon Ball Z, but it's like going in the hyperbolic time chamber. You're alone and you can spend all the time just refining your strengths. Why would that be viewed as a weakness? really think about that. And if you really understand that it's other people that is making it seem to be a weakness when it could really be a strength, you'll start to look at the time differently. So you'll start to think, well, I've only spent a month alone, rather than it's been a whole month that I've been alone. You start to think, I've only been alone for a year and I could learn so much more, as opposed to thinking, I've been alone for a whole year. Life is terrible. Just changing the way you view the very same scenario can change the way you think about the scenario, which will change the way you act. And these actions can lead to creating your reality. The fourth question that I feel is so important to ask if you find yourself alone is, what can you learn from listening more to your inner voice? When we're surrounded by people, or when we're surrounded by constant stimuluses of the outside world, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate between what we are being influenced to think, what we're being influenced to do, what we're being influenced to say, versus what we really feel deep down. And the more that you spend time alone is the more that you allow that voice to be refined, so that when you do get into a populated environment, you understand and know that voice and can recognize that voice so well that no matter how many voices are around you, you'll never stray. You'll never start doing things that you don't really feel like doing. You'll never start becoming someone that you know deep down you will not be proud of. And this understanding is multiplied when you actually spend time alone to really understand it, to hear it, to converse with it, to feel where it's leading you. So use this time to understand what that voice is telling you. You could have been being led down a path of confusion. A lot of times when we're going, we just never stop to think about where we're actually going. And we never take the time to stop and really think about where we're going because of the influences of the people around us. Now, the last question, and maybe the most important question that you should ask yourself if you find yourself being alone, is this one. What would happen if you learned to be your own best company? Think about it. If you became your own best friend, if you understood yourself through and through and appreciated yourself for who you are and loved yourself for who you are, what would that life look like? A lot of times we're looking for validation from other people. Sometimes we're around people, we don't even like them like that. We just don't want to be alone. Sometimes we're with people that we can't even stand them, but because they give us this feeling of, okay, well, at least if I'm with them, I'm not going to be alone with my own thoughts, because we're almost afraid of our own thoughts. So what would happen if you became that person for you? What I think would happen, and what has happened to me in my time of being alone, it really helped me appreciate who I was as a person, who I am as a person, and really helped me choose my environment better and choose the people that I choose to interact with better. And now my friend group, or the people that I associate myself with, are much stronger and more refined, and just they more represent who I feel that I am, rather than me just being around people because I don't want to be alone. And spending time alone helped me understand, okay, well, there's certain boundaries that I have that I wouldn't want crossed. And maybe the people that you're around before crossed those boundaries. And maybe that's why you're alone right now. A lot of times we find ourselves alone because all of a sudden we lash out at something that someone did. But really ask yourself, why did you lash out? Why did you come to this conclusion right now? It's likely that the same thing that that person did for you to be lashing out right now is something that they have always been doing. But why is it now that you've had enough? Maybe that's your inner voice talking to you, telling you that I don't want nothing to do with this fake life. It's not me. You need to learn who I am so that we can start to build a life that is more like who I am. Maybe it's your inner voice saying that, but you're only going to find out if you spend that time alone. So stop looking at being alone as loneliness. Take away the stigma of being alone. When you start to appreciate what it means to actually be with your own essence and understand who you are as a human, why you are as a human, start to appreciate your passions, start to find your purpose, life just starts to change. It's like the gates of life starts finally opening up. You thought that you were living before, but the life that is true to who you are is so much more lively and robust and full of sunshine than anything that you've experienced in the past. So maybe being alone is that breakthrough that you're looking for. Maybe leaving those friends or leaving that relationship, even if it feels bad now, even if it feels painful, maybe the reason that happened is so that you can elevate. Maybe you just took 2 steps back so that you could take 30 forward. And life has a funny way of doing that to us, where we lose something that we think we want just to get the things that we actually need. Take a moment, give thanks for being alone. I know it sounds crazy, especially if you're watching this video and you are a very lonely person. It sounds crazy, but give thanks for the fact that you are alone, and give thanks that you are actually searching for reasons to make good of this situation, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people are just going to stay suffering without understanding that this could be the most pivotal moment of your life. So that's all I have for the video today. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts about being alone in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video next week. I have no idea when the next video is going to come out. Stay tuned.